Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Teg Plays. City Skylines tonight. We're still working on Bomont Su Maire. I apologize for some of the stuttering. The machine I'm on is having a few minor crises, mostly due to my own use of the machine, but we'll see how that goes tonight. Let's see what we can find to work on here. I think we may just finally have to break down and get our Michigan Expressway started today. Currently our demands are not very high, and they've all been well met. And let's see, are we actually making money on our transit system yet? Because that will be our big concern. No. No, of course not. Let's see here. I did notice we were having issues actually getting buses to move last time, and I'm wondering if it has to do with the biofuel depot versus a regular depot. So let's get a regular depot put in. Because I don't believe all the buses I used actually have biofuel. Okay, so we'll need to take a few moments to get some money going before we can do that. There we are. Ooh, we got some people with water issues. Let's go see what that says right now. Wow. Already found it. Aha. Figures. Let's get this handled. Got it. All right, that was easy enough. What is our traffic looking like here? We're still at 85%, so nothing to really worry about at this point. Looking at the way the city is set up, though, it does appear as though we will need to put some sort of connection here near the base of this bridge just to keep traffic from navigating through the entire city that doesn't need to. We've got another questionable water situation down here. Let's check it out. Since we're alongside the waterfront, we don't need to worry about keeping any sort of grids in place. As that will just waste time and energy. Let's see. That should help a bit. One thing playing this game on this machine does show I probably need more RAM. Alright, so let's go ahead and start our process here. We're going to pause the game because I think if we don't, we're going to run into a lot of problems here. So we're going to start our Michigan Expressway here. So let's start with just a single road to make sure we have our guides in place. 2U, normal road. And there we go. So we need one separation here between the road we just built and where the Mission Expressway is going to be. That's there primarily to ensure we need to have 4 grid squares in between each direction, roughly. That's a significant space, but it's a requirement in order to maintain proper traffic flow, to allow for the U-turns to not be very sharp, and for future upgrades for things like monorails, trams, the other sorts of transport accoutrement we may need to add later. We, of course, will be using highways for this. We're going to use our 2-lane highway. We're actually going to use the original City Skylines version. There we are. Let's see. Let's actually use the ones that from Mass Transit. We'll use the Mass Transit version. And we're going to make sure we need to turn off the snap to grid markings, just because I'm already using precision engineering, so trying to do it any other way would be a little difficult or distracting, to say the least. All right, so there is our first segment built. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do the same thing through there, and there we are. And then we're going to build our second segment going the other direction. And now that we have our base road in place, we can connect everything. And we're going to actually switch over and use the sound wall versions. I'm just going to do a straight connection. Yes, this is going to take out our pedestrian infrastructure, but we can always put it back. And I'm going to take out a little road here and keep our infrastructure in place. Let's go right up to there. And let's go ahead and reverse direction so we know everyone's in good shape. Excellent. Now let's get rid of this ramp. Come on. Okay, let's go ahead and grab that. Slowly start to break things up that way. There we go. All right, that looks good. And we go back to regular tools versus move it. There we are. All right. Let's go ahead and get our road back in place. I'm going to use the same road I had before, which was the 4-lane into U. There we are. And I'm going to use the same one here, 4-lane into U, which I don't actually think I was using here before, but it's going to make things a lot easier, I think. Once the game catches up, as we're doing a autosave, packaging, there we go. And there we go. All right. Now we need our highway. And we are going to have to use the reference grid outside of our work area here. So here's our road. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8. And I need to turn off, bend the line. I want straight lines. There we go. And then from here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's where the end is going to be. So we do need to extend our roadway just a tiny bit here. To about there. And to about there. Reverse, reverse, boom. There we go. Take out this middle section here. I do appreciate that they added an underground bulldoze right away, but it's certainly annoying because it's B and V and they're right next to each other. All right, so 2, 4, 6, 8. Now, it may look like we're doing this backwards, but that's partially by design, partially just because I'm too lazy to do it any other way sometimes. And then I want move it. Thank you, move, or I don't want find it, I need move it. There we go. Move it. Find it, I don't want you, thank you. Move it. There we go. Bending point, we stretch it out. Bending point, and we stretch it out. And because this is, after all, our initial section, and we're going to turn on anarchy. There we go. We can actually get away with this. There we go. And again, a lot of this is going to be temporary, but we do need to, in theory, have a functioning roadway and one that's, in our eyes, aesthetically pleasing, right? There's no point in building roads if they're not functional and don't look good. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, let's get our pedestrians taken care of, though, first. Oop. I do have a new keyboard and mouse, and it looks like this one's just a tiny bit more sensitive than the old Dell Bluetooth I was using. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get our walkways going again. No, we're not changing land. We're going to change roads and paths. Okay, back to our park life path. One of the ones I really seem to enjoy is in the new DLC. Okay, we're going to go 5, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to make that normal. And we're going to send it across. And then we're going to send it down. And then we're going to send this one up, and then down and across. And This is going to be a little more difficult, so let's go ahead and get this taken care of because we do have to take out a couple of sections of path. There we go. And the idea is not to let these people cross at these intersections. We will probably have to work on something, but at least for now, I'm going to use the unified UI and where did traffic manager disappear to? Oh, what happened there? There must have been an update. Of course. Hey, June 2022. Excellent. First thing we want to do is we want to take out the crosswalks. I know I didn't do it there. There we go. That's intersection. That is intersection. And then I want to do control click. There we go. Control click. All right, that'll make sure that our right turns make right turns. We're not having to deal with any sort of traffic bottleneck. And then we do need to make sure yield is on. Yield is on. Oop, two more. Yield is on. Yield is on. And let's make sure these guys know. Yep, they can enter the intersection. I guess they can enter the intersection, but here I only want one and no crossings. You would think that would be abundantly clear on a freeway or expressway or whatever you want to call it, but sometimes the logic of the Sims is so bad that they'll still walk on freeways. I've come across it many times when I build roundabouts, so better safe than sorry. All right. Let's go ahead and see how traffic behaves. This will, of course, take a few minutes. All the cars from the middle are getting lost again. There we are. Yeah, I kind of wish yield meant yield. For some reason in this game, yield means creep out into the middle of the road until you can force someone to stop and then get going. But to each their own, I guess. Let's see here. All right. As we expand the Michigan Expressway, these U-turns will be more common. And typically they'll actually be paired together, so you'll have two about 4 squares apart that'll bend together and be almost touching in order to do reverses in between blocks. But since I built this specifically as an offset intersection, so we didn't have 4-way stops and an abundance of left turns as you first come into the city, this is kind of where we're at. I may have to change this entry roadway, though, into the main part of the city to be 1 lane out and 2 lanes in. But we'll see how things go. We are starting to see a little more demand for commercial, but we also have a few other things having problems. Let's see, we are looking at garbage is crud. Education. Yeah, I haven't built any schools in some of these areas yet. I guess we'll have to fix that. Right now, though, we kind of spend a bunch of money, so we're going to let the city try to languish a little bit here. In the meantime, though, we do have a nice little handy detail we can do, which is increase our budget just a tiny bit. Budget. Education. Let's get that to about 120. Let's see if that helps. Well, Michigan left seem to be, well, we're now getting into, for lack of a better term, a giggle loop, but we'll see what happens here. Might need to add a third lane in some of these sections. We'll see how that goes. But for now, we're in good shape. There's a 4-lane. So there's a 4-way intersection we'll have to work on later. And then I'm looking at this area. This will probably end up being something like Interstate 75 and Business Interstate 75 near Pontiac, Michigan. Kind of an interchange to an interchange. There's a couple of those corner interchanges on I-75 that I always found fascinating living there. But for now, let's let the game play out. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Well, I certainly hope that was cinematic. Let's see what we can do now. We've got 13,000 simoleons, or credits, or whatever you want to call them this week. I know some people call them dollars, or pounds, or dollar pounds. Let's see, what do we need for this? We're going to need 30,000. All right, so we've got 14. Let's go see what we can do without spending too much money. Well, let's start down here. Let's go back to full speed. There we go. Let's grab our 1U. In fact, we'll just do it this way. We'll just use our eyedropper, grab the road we want, switch over to draw mode, and go from there. All right, we want to go out here 22 units. Yeah, they're never happy when we build roads, but unfortunately, to get things going, that's something we're going to have to do. All right. All right, let's get back in here. Excellent. Just going to take out one house or apartment building, whatever that one is. And then because we do have some commercial requirements coming in here, we are going to get a little low density commercial for corner stores and such. It's never a good idea, be it in SimCity, City Skylines, or even real life, to have monolithic zoning. It makes it very difficult for people to live and not have to rely on cars. So we actually probably do need, let's take that out. Keep that all open for pathways. And because we can, I'm going to put a office block there. Some low density, and we'll go back to high density. Then we will probably stair step the streets over at this point. But we'll see. Much like Bob Ross, we'll kind of see where the canvas takes us. Well, we're at 13,000. I guess we've only spent 1,000 here, but hopefully as we get some more people in here, that will improve. Let's leave a gap for our walkways. And we can actually get those going here. We do have significant demand actually for residential and commercial, so we will probably need to work on a little more commercial zone here in a few minutes. go. And then into one of my custom-made parks. Doesn't play well with this smaller road, but it's sufficient, and it brings park space to places where the built-in parks and a lot of the workshop parks are just, to me, not sufficient. My parks come in a variety of sizes: 2x5, 4x3, 4x5, and 9x3, and I think 9x5, and they all have some sort of park access. And that goes a long way in encouraging players to put parks behind their homes and their businesses. You could almost think of them as alleys, except there's no drivers. It's the same sort of concept. It's also nice to keep pedestrians out of the way of cars, keep them having to deal with the impacts of cars, be that carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, a-hole drivers, that sort of thing. And we're going to come right down to about there. We don't want it to get perfectly connected because we still want to have a little bit of flexibility. And this is something I started doing very early in playing City Skylines. I was always finding issues with pedestrian traffic interfering with car traffic and vice versa. And so the thought about making the grid a little bit bigger in order to provide pedestrian access made a whole lot of sense. Okay, we can do a little cleanup here. We still haven't made too much money, but we haven't spent too much either. Hopefully we can get to that required dollar amount so we can actually see our buses function. Otherwise, I'll probably have to go ahead and delete the bus depot and start over, which I don't really want to do. But if we have some sort of flaw in the system, either due to an update, due to a bad plugin, or M1 related, which is entirely possible. Nice thing is, Skylines is updated and is technically native. It is not running through Rosetta, which gives me hope. And it is Unity, and Unity does use metal when possible. So I don't have to worry about trying to go through multiple translation layers like I did originally. The Mac and Linux versions, to my knowledge, originally used OpenGL/OpenCL for their graphics, and possibly DirectX for Windows. I never really paid that close of attention, even on my Windows machine. But I'm hoping that with the work and the announcement of Metal 3 just this week, we can see some major improvements here in the behavior. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, why did Apple have to go their own way? And I think the biggest reason they did was just simply the hardware. They knew they weren't going to be using AMD or NVIDIA hardware in the future, and they needed to get people started on thinking about other ways of doing things, and giving them a blank template like Metal, which is basically hardware agnostic, seemed to go a long way for them kind of having the ability to give people one system to program for all of their devices. Could it be a mistake? Absolutely, but we'll have to see. I will say I have been quite impressed. Not necessarily on this machine. I mean, this machine is just a base M1 with 8 GPUs, 8 CPUs, and 8 gigs of RAM. That's part of the buffering. I kind of picked this up from a local Craigslist type place just because I wanted to play around and found out how much I liked it. I was kind of shocked. I still have my I still have my 2011 iMac, my 2012 MacBook Pro using them as my daily drivers. This one's a little sequestered in my office, but I think when the M2 Mini's announced, that'll probably be my purchase. Ooh, we got some pedestrian traffic issues here. Yeah, let's make a mid. We need to make a mid-block crossing here. This is so one of the advantages of using a mid-block crossing versus an intersection crossing is you're only having to deal with pedestrians and straight traffic. If you have them at the intersections, you're dealing with turning traffic. You're stopping up traffic that doesn't necessarily need to be stopped. So we're going to use node controller, and I'm going to change the node type from middle to crossing. The other nice thing is you can do some things that cities have implemented in their downtown cores. Seattle's done this a few, especially along, I believe it's Fifth Avenue, might even be Fifth and Sixth. They have a lot of mid-block crosswalks and traffic signals. So if you have enough people that are crossing mid-block, you can put traffic signals in, and it'll stop traffic long enough for the pedestrians to cross, and then go on their own. Don't ask me what the index out of range thing is. I believe there's just a minor hiccup in one of the pieces of code that got converted to M1. That's the thing. So the game is M1. The plugins, I think, are just basically some XML to some degree. So they should be agnostic, but there could be special calls or C calls that aren't quite translating correctly. So we may need to report some bugs here, especially to node controller. Or at the very least, you've now seen it, so we'll see what happens there. All right, so we got some people. Oh, we had no water. Now we have fire. We got power problems. What do we have? Ooh. Yeah, we're getting close to our limit. Let's see. Can we adjust that with a budgetary adjustment? We can. So let's go ahead and get ourselves to 120%. Hey, it went green. I'm happy. So we've got Olive Hills, Myrtle Hills, Eponine Square, and Costa Azure. Ooh, there's our fire. I don't think we have adequate fire coverage here, and of course, again, my mouse is a little too sensitive. I'll need to make sure I get that adjusted. Oh, fire brigade's coming, so we don't have to worry about that too much, but yeah, we will need to add some fire coverage down here. Let's just delete this. It doesn't seem to be working at all. It's an expense I can't really afford at the moment. Transportation boondoggle. Well, that's doing something. I'm going to call that actually a kind of a happy place for not having stopped traffic, which is, of course, the antithesis of good traffic design. Let's see. Traffic. Okay, so we are at 81, so it is a little flustered, but that's to be expected, I think, for a little bit. All right. Still at, no, now we're at 21. We only got about $9,000 to go before we can get that bus depot replaced. Let's see. It is complaining about police coverage. Let's see what we have going on there. What is our crime rate? Ah, it's jail capacity it's upset about. Well, I think we can fix that. Minor budget adjustment will all be good, hopefully. Let's see. Budget. And police, we give them a 17% increase. And I'll go take care of those bus routes we built that don't actually have any. We can't actually put buses on them at the moment, so we'll see what we can get cleared there, save ourselves a little more money. Yeah, it's going to tick off a lot of people in town, but that's unfortunately par for the course. As for the transportation options, we do have trams available and metro. Of course, railroad. And it looks like we're how far from... Oh, we got a long way to go before we can get to harbor. We're about halfway to harbor. And probably much further from airports. All right. Well, looks like we do have a little more commercial and business demand coming in here. So we're going to take this nice little space we have here. And we're probably going to... I think I'm going to add some business to it. Let's do this. We're gonna take off a bunch of rich people here. We're gonna take out their handy dandy neighborhood here. And see what we can do. There we go. That should help alleviate traffic from the neighborhoods, get them ready, because this will, of course, be another main thoroughfare as we get building. But let's go ahead and also take out these residences because they're not going to want to be here for the expansions. Let's do that. Do that. Let's get a little commercial being built. Dense commercial. Let's get this one out of the way because that's not going to like the future here. We're not going to connect our neighborhood through that road, so that we don't have to worry about, nor this one. And let's see, how's our water arranged? Okay, we're going to be good there. That's usually one of those things that we all overlook, and suddenly things go a little haywire, and people are complaining because there's no water. There we go. Perfect. All right, and hopefully our pedestrians down here will be happy. Let's get a mid-block crossing in so that they're not having to go too far out of the way and they can keep using their existing pathway. They were pretty good about that before. Let's get a connection here behind the office. And we'll use node controller to put in another crosswalk. Probably get an index out of bounds exception again. Oh, we didn't. I'm color me shocked. All right, pulling up TPME so we can close off a couple of these, at least one of these crosswalks to try to encourage crossings in other locales. Perfect. Well, that does seem to be helping a bit. And we're at 23 grand, 24 grand. Income's up to 4240, so that's a good sign. Means we're at least making positive moves here. Whew, that's a lot of traffic down through here. Everything's behaving almost like it's a one-way couplet here. Yeah, I want to discourage this sort of behavior, so let's go ahead and see if we can replace that little one-way road with trees we did real early on with one of these 1U-ish residential streets. All right, let's see. In theory, this will go a long way into discouraging traffic from using that street, but it's obviously only using that street because these These main streets are not big enough. So let's go ahead and grab our 2U 3 lane plus. And let's see. Let's go ahead and use a 4 lane. Okay, we're only going to do a little bit here because there's a runoff here for neighborhood. There we go. Similar situation. Cross block got maintained, thankfully. I'd much rather be giving these roads diets, but at this point we'll kind of have to deal with what we have here. Eventually this will probably go back down to being a road with bike lanes. Once I'm able to put in a metro and other good transit. Come on. There we go. Who is without water? Oh, nobody's without water apparently. Oh, Ice Cube Factory. Now, what are you doing without? How are you without water? You're just going to be on the end of the line, aren't you? That's just crazy. All right, so that's going to make that happy. Ah. We do need to go down here and update our intersection to try to encourage proper use. Control click. Dedicated left turns. You know, actually, I'm going to do this a little differently. So, traffic coming from the top of the screen is going to have a dedicated right turn lane on the left straight. Traffic from the bottom okay, dedicated left and a right straight, that's good. Traffic coming from the right. Yeah, right straight, that looks good. And traffic coming from the left. That all looks good. So it's just the... Ooh, hello. We're now a big city. Look at that. We can do universities and liberal arts campuses and all that good stuff. So, and we can do an interconnect here between our... Do an interconnect between train and metro when we get to that point, which we're not at yet, unfortunately. Although, actually, if I'm honest, I'm not even sure where the train is. Let's go take a look. So, railroad is way over here on the mainland. Our little island has no rail at this point, but we'll probably end up fixing that. Metro and tram, of course, will be things we'll use, and possibly monorail. One of my favorite modes of transit that's so underutilized and so misunderstood. All right, we'll see how that helps with our traffic situation. In the meantime, flooding. Yes, our little shoreline neighborhood, the little touristy part of town, that's going to have some water issues from time to time. But you know what? We have money. Let's go do the thing. So we tried Biofuel Depot and that didn't work. So let's just try a regular bus depot. Okay, I'm going to orient it the way I kind of feel normal. Like this freeway being kind of a southern barrier at the moment. We'll zoom out. And let's see if we can get some buses working. Bus stop. Let's see here. We're leveling up some of these buildings, which hopefully is a good thing. All right, let's go see if we actually get some buses moving here. It says 5 vehicles. We're going to have Scania Citywide, a school bus, and a Scania Citywide. Well, can't really do that. I honestly really dislike the fact that they put school buses as part of this setup. So let's pick our type. We're going to do with the Sound Transit Gillig. Those will be the types we're going to allow on this line and see what happens. Next vehicle in about 1 second. There we go. It seems to be happy. And I have buses. That's a very positive thing. Much better than we, certainly much better than we were having, which was no buses. No buses whatsoever. All right, we're going to try to build a feeder line here. Ooh, let's do it this way. We're going to right click, right click, right click. Yeah, just hold your horses, guys. So initially here we are going to just have the bus do some U-turns. But once we get the city built out, the AI will automatically reconfigure the routes to use some of the new roadways we built, the best roadways, so that hopefully things will improve for everyone. Excellent. Come on. And the same thing is going to be true over here. So we're going to do one of those, bring it down to here. Now, one of the things I do like to do often is to have two routes that go in opposite directions. I'm not going to do that at this point. It's just going to be a little more complicated since we are early on in the city building process, but we'll do that eventually. I think in most cases I go through 3 or 4 iterations of bus systems, especially as metros start to be used. And I kind of realize what we need to do to keep things moving and happy. All right. So since we're coming this way, we're going to do that. And we don't have to stop on every block. We don't even have to stop on every other block. I just seem to naturally gravitate towards that situation. Sometimes the stops are too close together and we'll have to adjust them, but we can cross that bridge again when we get there. All right. Rudimentary bus system is in. Let's see how long it takes to adjust our internal traffic. I see our external traffic is still kind of crazy. I think we're going to put in a traffic signal. I don't normally have to do it this early, but ooh. That's a cacophony of noise. We'll just turn the whole thing down. That's marginally better. Let's see. Traffic manager. Traffic signal on off. Traffic signal on, okay. Might have to do a time traffic light then. Ooh, wait. Why? Sometimes default traffic behavior is just maddening. Not to mention, why are the ambulances in the queue? They should not be in the queue. All right, we're going to just have to. Give me what I want. I want to pick lanes. Joys of traffic manager, those I can actually tell these guys where I want them to go. So curb lane is going to go to curb lane. As autosave kicks in again. Straight lane, cross, cross, left turn. Left turn to internal. I'm going to make sure these opposing turns are not conflicting, so that's the biggest thing there. Curb, straight, straight, right. And left. Right, straight, straight. Oop, I guess I do need one more on the blue. There we go. We'll see how that goes. As of course now the game engine has to update and recalculate a bunch of agents, so we'll see what they do here. Oh, that's a little smoother. And the guys going straight are actually able to go straight. Imagine that. Pathfinding in this game sometimes just baffles me. But it could be worse. It very much could be worse. All right, well, we're up to 70 grand. Let's see, what's the next thing we need to do? We've got trash and then education, and then we still have... It's still complaining about police department availability, which earlier I think we found was just a fancy name for we don't have enough jails, but I think we'll see here. So we use our recycling solar-powered center. And because we can, let's get it within... There we go. We're not going to affect the main outcome of the game. So let's go ahead and get it down here. We're only going to tick off one person. One business in theory. And let's go ahead and put it out here. There we go. That's going to help garbage processing significantly. And we do need to deal with police. Oh, well, now we see we don't have any coverage. It lied to us earlier. So let's go ahead and we're going to add a couple of little roadways down in this section here so we can use up some of the space. Because industrial, we don't really need a buffer. We do need a buffer with residential. So let's go ahead and grab... We're just going to use the residential street over here, at least on the, what I'm going to call the southbound side here. No, no, no. Sometimes the system's just a little too jumpy. It wants to help you out a little too much. Let's see, we do want police. There we go. People are happy down through there. Let's see, so there's one right up there. I'm going to take out this house here. Let's turn back off anarchy. There we go. Now, because we've done that and everyone's happy and covered, mostly, let's go ahead and lower our budget back to normal. All right. Now I guess we should probably look at schools. Connect our road through here. Give ourselves our extra little bit of space, and I doubt I can build a school for 8,900. Nope. We need $10,000. Well, let's give it a few moments here. In the meantime, we do know we need to cut down the noise pollution from our recycle center, so that's going to require the use of offices. And then we can put our commercial on the other side. We'll leave 2 squares in the grid so we can have the road pass through here eventually. And I did say we're probably going to jump over stair step at this point, so we'll get that all squared away, although looking at it now I don't think we will, but it always gives us options. And then I'm going to put some light commercial in here. Some mom and pop shops hopefully will pop up in there. In the meantime, we do see a lot of demand for residential. It's not quite off the chart point where we probably need to start looking at replacing some of our low density with some high density. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to do it en masse. Because if we do that, we're going to lose way too much money way too fast. But in the meantime, we can go ahead and start replacing some units with some other purposes. Because we do want to be judicious with our land use. Especially if that means we have more space for entertainment. We've got our 10,000 simoleons. Let's go ahead and get ourselves an elementary school built right next to our pedestrian pathway. That actually should make a pretty decent impact. We may need to build another one up over in this portion of the city, but we'll see how that goes. Ooh. Well, that figures. Traffic's not so happy here anymore. Let's go ahead and fix that. We're going to pause. Okay, let's see. What do we got going on here? I want traffic tracker, traffic routes. Let's see where we're going here. Where are you going? Okay, you're going up and out of town, so why are you not just... Oh. I screwed something up here. Traffic manager. Calgon, take me away. Any lane. There we go. You do the same thing here. Any lane. Any lane. But those don't need to do any lane. Those can. Okay, let's see how that works. Oh, and then one more thing. Because this game's routing is, again, kind of borked. Let's clear this up here. Select the node, Control S, and straight lines. There we go. So that'll take just a minute to process. And then we're back to playing. We'll see what happens to the traffic. All right. This will, of course, take a few minutes to clean up, but we can probably bring it along a little faster here. Go ahead and delete a few trucks. Because I'd hate to see that they're all kind of stuck here because they can't change lanes. But our city streets are doing pretty well now. Hopefully that's not just because of the insane bottleneck going on back there, but we'll see. We do have to remember that that's kind of a limited space just because of the city itself. And in fact, now that I think about it, let's go ahead and do this. We have the ability. Let's go ahead and buy another area or two. Should I buy top or bottom? Let's see here. It's going to need going to need $5,400, so I guess we can think about that for a little bit. In the meantime, it does look like we've got some water issues. I know exactly where they are too. Right down here where I said I wasn't going to have any water issues. Of course. That is going to be perfect. Let's go ahead and get that all squared away. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and extend it for now. We can go ahead and trim it later. we're going to go ahead and work a little more into this commercial zone, I think. Oh, not enough money. No. Yeah, we're down to 60. But in the interim, we'll go ahead and fill out our zones. And do the same down through here. Sure, we're going to have to knock some of those buildings down when we extend the road, but that is fine by me. Let's go ahead and replace some of these with some office space. There we go. Since we decided we weren't going to put a roadway through there, we can go ahead and clean that up. All right, let's go ahead and clean this all up. Lane picker. You go straight. Okay, Control S. You go straight. You can crisscross there. I want you to have made your mind up by the time you're here, I think. There we go. We're going to do our crisscrosses here, far enough away from the junction to hopefully clear up some traffic. Let's see if we can get some cleanup done here too. You know, that's one of our problems. Let's go ahead and fix that. That's what I did, but not what I meant to do, I think. So let's go straight and right. Because right now everyone's trying to jam into this left lane to go straight through. And that's not a requirement. And we're doing the same thing on this side, which must be causing headaches. In our next episode, we'll probably go ahead and change this slightly. I think we probably need 3 lanes at this point rather than just 2, but we'll see. Come on, go straight. There we go. All right. There's our dilapidated house in our park. I've yet to, of course, designate this as the park, but that'll be coming soon, I hope. Got a population of 8,897, so we're in good shape there, I think. We're up to $2,884. I can assume that's a day, but who knows? A little more adjustment here. A few more high density residential areas here coming in. Excellent. And across the street here, we can go ahead and put in some more industrial zones. All right, and that's already 9, so we can go to. Oh, nope, that was one more. That's not helpful. All right, 11U. It always counts the ends where you can put traffic, and we're not locked again. All right, let's fix that. All right, one more time. If this little dot isn't selected, roads may not quite meet up correctly. All right, so we're going to go out here to 1, 2, 3. Okay. The temporary end of our little expressway area. We can go ahead and fill all this in now, I think. Alright, so we've expanded our industrial zone here. Done some zoning to try to expand without spending too much money. You can see we had the little hiccup with the buses, but they've all healed themselves now. In fact, I think if we pull up the bus map, yep, it's corrected itself. And we're just going to put a little stop there. And that's been almost an hour, a little over an hour and a half. I think we can probably call it a day at this point. Let's go ahead and see how the city looks. Cinematic tour.